Hi guys, it is Dom here from Soundsfair Magazine. I just wanted to intro this one. Ben Leftwich and I go way back on the York, UK scene, and I love his music. I'm a big fan of his music as well. We're going to talk about Some Things Break, the new record. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about the self-reflection on the record and in past releases as well. We get a little bit deep on this one. We could have gone on for hours, as I'm sure you'll see. We talk about some legends of the York scene as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this. Thank you so much for giving up your time. As always, don't always do intros to interviews and stuff, I know. So really appreciate you investing your time and energy into this. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Right, Ben. So it is a pleasure to sit down with you after a few years. We've talked off the record a bunch of times, but an on the record interview with you. This is a real pleasure for me to sit down with you. And just wanted to kind of check in at first. I know we had a bit of time off camera, but how are you feeling? New records out. You've been doing some reflecting. How are you feeling as we sit down together in early March of 2024?
Yeah, man. Well, it's always great to see you, brother. And I love you loads. And you and I go way back. And yeah, I feel right now in this moment today, I feel okay. Yeah, the new record came out, a couple of months ago. It's called Some Things Break, 10 new songs. And I'm really proud of it, man. I know that's kind of a base thing to say or something, but I think it's the most fearless and kind of unmetaphorical that I've ever been. And me and Jimmy Hogarth kind of produced the whole thing, and he's a legendary kind of seasoned producer, and we really left no stone unturned. We wrote way more than we needed. Not all of them were good, and that enabled us to kind of slim it down and just find like the truest thing that was the essence of this title that appeared kind of towards the end of the process, called Some Things Break, which is really just an acceptance of uh life on life's terms. So
Yeah.
it's I'm 34 now, and I made my first album when I was like, I don't know, 18 or something, maybe 18, 19, something like this. And I was I used metaphors, Ems. It was all I knew how to use, and I like doing that. But I think it would be less congruent and true for me now. So I feel like I'm just flowing heart first, and I'm so grateful to for this gift, that I've been given, and the privilege I've been afforded in life to get to spend time to work on it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And that's one of my questions was, as long as I've known you and we've talked about sort of using music as catharsis and kind of, escapism in different forms. When I listen to, I'm always saying sorry, and then obviously the title track as well, Some Things Break, that rawness, that, this stuff is some of the stuff, even as a listener, where I don't know where your head was at. Like, this is raw stuff. It must have been difficult maybe to write down. So can you talk me through, you know, when you were building this record, you started the record with "I'm Always Saying Sorry." Some things break, the title track comes in the middle. What were you thinking? How were you feeling when you wrote those two particular tracks? Because there's some strong themes: love, self-reflection. Uh, you know, uh, even a little bit of not criticism, but certain. I will call it self-reflection. Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I love those two songs. I think they're definitely they hit deep, and I get that. And I'm not afraid of that. Self-reflection is a kind way of putting it, but I'm not afraid of self-criticism either.
Yeah.
When that there was a lot in me that needed to be criticized. And I think there's a lot in the world, and often in people's hearts, that is
Yeah.
criticized is a funny word, but and these, for me, I can only speak for myself, needs to be changed. And those two songs in particular, I'll never forget it. We Jimmy Hogarth, who produced the album, has got a studio in London, and we have a friend called John Green, who's an amazing piano player. And when I first started this album, one of my references for it production wise was an album called Midair by Paul Buchanan, who's a singer of the Blue Nile, which is a real minimal, just like vocal piano cinema kind of, by cinema I mean atmosphere kind of deal. And I went into the studio that week. It was the same week that Jimmy and I and Jamie Squire had done some stuff with 1975, and we had 2 days, the 2 days before that started, to write some songs. And I'd it was as the world was opening up again. This must have been 2021. We wrote and recorded these. I'd come out of a breakup, and like an amicable, relatively amicable, mutual breakup. And with I'm always saying sorry. This person had told me a story of a man that they knew at university who was going through his life like a human hurricane. And I remember once saying, she was telling me this story, and basically how selfish this guy was. And I said, wow, that sounds like me, or at least what I can be like off beam. And she was like, nah, he's nothing like you, you do. And it was funny, but she only knew me in this moment, And so one thing that I like to do when I'm writing with artists a lot and when I'm by myself is, and there's a song, if any songwriters listening, maybe it's useful, but like writing from the perspective of someone else. So you can kind of get out of the way of your own heart a bit and write from the perspective of someone else. But of course, you can only really do it effectively if your heart's invested in the storyline of it. So I was able to sing it and perform it really, like a lot of that stuff in the song is stuff that I would have done, not all of it. So we wrote it from the perspective of someone else. Someone who's like, I'm always, there's a big difference between sorry and amends. I don't know.
Yes.
There's a lot of people, including me, who've said 1,000 sorries, but never an amends, and I think there's a difference.
Yeah.
So that's that song. And I'll just speak about that as well for a sec.
Of
Jimmy,
course.
um, one thing Jimmy and John did, because me and Jimmy wrote with other artists so much for their albums, there was part of me when I was doing those two songs that were like, right, we'll just record these two songs, then we'll send them to Tim McGraw and we'll get him to sing them, because John works in the Nashville thing and I knew how good the songs were. And it was the first time that I'd heard bounces from Jimmy where I was like, wow, I love how this sounds. Maybe Jimmy's the right producer for me, because we were just kind of messing around, friends in the studio. And when I heard those two bounces that we heard 3 years ago, pretty much how the songs ended up on the album. And Some Things Break came really naturally as well. Some Things Break was more specifically about the kind of just the like sigh and acceptance without a fight of like, oh my gosh, this ain't working,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it came pretty quick. Jimmy's got separation in his studio. He's got a wall that he pulls across, so John could sit there playing the piano and I could be singing live as he was playing
Yeah.
in the other room, and then Jimmy would comp like that.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful tracks, and a lot to be proud of there. I think one of the things I wanted to ask you on record that we've talked about off record, with the success of this record and obviously your previous work, has your attitude to success changed over the years as you've produced more music, become more self-reflective? How do you, is success a dirty word for you, Ben? Do you like it as a word, or do you find it difficult? I know you mentioned previously, off record, you have a little bit of an issue with praise and things like that. So how do you define success now, and how has your relationship with it changed?
Man, that's we need to do like a 3 hour long form
We
podcast.
do, yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, I was always really afraid of it, but I think that was kind of an ego trip as well. Honestly, I only accepted, I'm not just saying this to be like fake humble or whatever, but I only accepted about 2 years ago. I remember the feeling in my heart changing. I only accepted that I'd been successful in music like 2 years ago. Up to
right,
then, I was like so hard on myself and just, it was a load of nonsense, really. I mean, it was an ego trip, but I think um I'm really lucky. I did have like what the world would see as like a commercially successful career, and I've been afforded lots of comfort and like a bed and a roof above my head and a TV. I'm looking at there's a PS5 in the corner of my room. There's like two guitars. I've got a backpack that works. I've got a phone. It's smashed, but I've got a phone. I
yeah,
dropped weight on it at the gym by accident.
right,
A new phone. And so I mean, dirty words are a good way to put it. That's how I can feel about it sometimes. But dude, like I remember coming off stage in at Hop Farm Festival in 2012, we'd been we were on after Tallest Man on Earth. Bob Dylan was on 2 hours later.
Right.
Tent was full. We got paid an outrageous amount of money to play it. And I remember coming off and like crying in my porta cabin like a child, and just like feeling like my heart was just like falling apart through my own poor behavior.
Right.
So for someone like me, for someone as the kind of head that I do, um, it's it's not what keeps me well. What keeps me well is like being in service, having a commitment in this fellowship that I'm in, praying, um,
Yeah.
meditating. And I don't mean meditating in like the kind of Western sense, I mean meditating like focused thought. I don't mean like candles and like, like naked guys and girls running around and
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And just kind of like seeking, a God of my own understanding, because the hole in my heart has never been in the shape of that stuff. At the same time, I feel today like I've been given a gift from what I choose to call God, and being given a gift of songwriting. And I know that it lights people's hearts up. I see
Yeah.
the messages,
Yeah.
and I know that it soundtracks people in moments of suffering and intensity. And I feel like it's my calling and my purpose for now.
Yeah.
So um
Beautiful, man.
that's kind of how I feel about that. But it's ever changing, Whenever I'm chasing it and I get so busy and I'm forgetting to do the things that keep my heart straight, I get sick really fast. And I've got
Yeah.
lots of friends, people that I'm sure you know as well, who had the whole world and chose to leave it, because it was too much for them. And I've equally got friends who are, you know, really rich, successful rock stars who can have any dish from the buffet that they want at any time, who are sad, and that can be me as well. I'm not better than anyone,
Yeah.
I kind
Yeah.
of just got into enough pain like 6 years ago to go like, oh, like all my thinking isn't working here, I need to admit that I'm wrong before I can get happy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Again, that self-reflection is strong. I think we'll I had a few more questions, but we'll leave that to our 3 hour podcast that we do down the road. I'll fit two more in. The
Yeah.
first one is a big one. It sort of follows on from the success one, and it's the idea of legacy. Now, are just your previous answer there, it sounds to me like you want to leave a legacy of connecting with people, songs that soundtrack people's moods, soundtrack people's sadness, their happiness. But that's me knowing you and listening to your songs. But as an artist, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? What kind of message do you want to leave the world? I'm not saying when you die, I'm not even saying when your career is done, but if you consider the legacy of Benjamin Francis Leftwich and what you leave as an artist. What do you think about that?
um as a person, I want to be remembered as um useful,
Yeah,
and as a singer and a songwriter, um so some songs that light people's hearts up,
yeah,
and also break them in a good way, because my experience is when my heart gets broke. Everyone loves that. Why is it that when people are sad, they put on like Cannonball or This Year's Love or something, People love doing that. I think they do anyway. At least I do. Maybe I'm the only one that admits it, but like just something that really makes people feel. And, that's the sentence I've probably heard most in my life is, I used to listen to Atlas Hands when I was going through my first breakup, I
right,
literally, or when I was traveling, and I don't mind that. I'm pleased to have, one song that did that. Um,
yeah.
so I think to soundtrack intense moments and be useful kind of sonically and lyrically in those moments.
That's cool, man. That's cool. And I'm sure we'll talk about this down the road. In terms of the promo questions, then, is there any message for your family back in your friends and supporters around the world now? You have a global audience. We'll talk about your touring around the UK in a second, but is there a message for those people that have supported you around the world, locally, regionally, nationally, through your career, and will continue to do so as you go on in the next few years?
Yeah, just that. I love you and I love your music and I love the energy that we all share. I mean, we could sit here and list off all the legends, you know, yourself included, Sam and Haley, Keegan Snays, you know, David Ward McLean, Color of Fire, of course, Sheds, you know, Holly Tamar, you know, all
Yeah,
Isaac up at Strensel, you know, like
yeah,
what's going on back there and just good music, man. I mean, we'll all remember those times, you know, the open mics at Habit and the Old Star. And I think we're a reflection of the people that we surround ourselves with. Chris Helm, of course, you know,
yeah,
Andy Gaines, you know, Cardboard Rate, the whole deal.
yeah.
Um, I'm probably a bit out of the loop with all that stuff, but I think I'm,
They're still there. They're still going, you know?
you know, just legends, man. People who love music and you know, we're all human and everyone makes mistakes, but there's definitely like those Num Num Club nights back in the day were just like so special, you know. It was like to be involved, to be welcomed into that as a 17-year-old probably changed my life, you know.
Yeah, man.
I remember leaving school and like walking through town with my guitar on my back, going, oh my, like nervous to meet Chris Helm, you know
Yeah, yeah, that's it, isn't it?
on my way there to like sing some songs and I sang I sang songs at those shows that I'll be singing on tour in a month's time, you know.
Yeah, beautiful. And that is the last question. The promo question is, you know, is there anything that I've missed, Ben, that you want to promote today? You are going on tour next month. Is there anything you'd like to plug and promote before we finish up?
No, just that I can't wait to get on tour. Um, I'm touring with a great piano player called Jamie Squire. He's one of my best friends, in my opinion, one of the best musicians in the world. We're going to be playing a mix of new songs and old songs, and I'm just grateful for your time. And yeah, the new album's out now. I think it's beautiful, and you know, if people have a minute, I'd love for them to listen to it.
Absolutely, me too. Go and listen to it now, everybody. And thank you, Ben, so much for your time. It is always a pleasure, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, mate.